everybody. Welcome back to another episode of God Built This Podcast. I'm your host, Maxine, and we're on episode 160. Hello. All right. Before we get into any of these topics that I have drafted for today's episode, let's discuss the ultimatum. Let's just get it out the way. I finished the season, and my God, today, I don't know where to begin. Now, let's start off with Madeline and Colby. I think the only reason Madeline said yes to Colby is she probably felt trapped. Like, look, I think I'm pregnant. I might as well just go ahead and get into this marriage. And, I have this man who could support me and just do the damn thing. All the damn shit, she talks so much cash shit about Colby, completely disregarded him throughout the whole process, was quick to jump the bones of Randall the whole time, that I just can't believe that she is so suddenly, or at the time, so suddenly into marrying Colby. And for it to be a decision right then and there, I feel like Colby, on one hand, just wanted to quickly solidify her answer. He probably feels like Madeline is someone who is indecisive, who says no and then yes and I don't know. And instead of her backing up or backing out of her yes to his proposal, he's probably thinking, okay, you know what? The best way to lock it down is marrying me on sight. Okay, marriage on sight. And that's what we saw there. So although in the reunion we see this beautiful entrance of her 7 months pregnant, and it's a beautiful thing to see, but it made me cringe at the same time. Dang, did they ever discuss the moments that she was jumping the bone or trying to jump Randall's bones? Did they ever even address that? No, right? So that marriage is a sham, but hey, God bless. Shaniqua reminds me of a friend of mine. Well, we don't really talk anymore. I mean, an old friend of mine from college. We were really, really close, and we just kind of went our separate ways, grew apart. But literally, their names rhyme. And when I look at this woman, I see so much of my old friend. Wow, literally their mannerisms, their physical appearance, the collarbone. My old friend, she has this particular type of collarbone where it's a strong, people would be like, oh, I got a strong jaw. You got a strong jaw, ma. For those women who have strong bottom faces, you know what I'm talking about? They just have a strong face. She has a strong shoulder. Shanika has a strong shoulder. Like she could shoulder bump you type of shoulder. She reminds me just of my old friend. But anyway, Shaniqua is someone who I feel thinks she's wise and thinks she knows the answer to it all and thinks she's always right and is very kind of guarded, which I can understand, and I see some similarities in my old friend and even in myself and her. But what annoys me about Shaniqua is the way she was talking to Zay in one of the scenes where she's trying to tell him about himself, about how you're using your past as an excuse to just excuse your toxic behavior in the current. And though I agree with her, right? I just had a couple episodes ago, I talked about I don't care about your trauma, which is still true, right? That is still accurate. I think, though, there needs to be some gentleness in how she delivers her point. Zay's background is just very shoddy. Damn, you had two parents in your life, but both of them didn't give a fuck about you. Okay, they clearly must have been on drugs. Or, that thing, and he's super young. All of these contestants, the whole cast is in their early 20s and they're talking about marriage or ultimatum. Like, I really thought this show was going to be about older relationships, like early 30s, mid 30s type of age range. But to be in 21, 23, 24, literally you just got out of college. One just got out the military. Like, I wouldn't think an ultimatum will be the next step, even if we've been dating for 2 years. Like, we got 2 more years to go at this point. Like, what are we talking about? We're 23. And all these men, most of the men talking about, oh, well, I want to be financially stable before I commit in that way. They're trying to like gaslight them, saying, oh, you're using that as an excuse. No, that's the reason. Hello? I want to be able to afford a mortgage if we choose to buy a house. I want to be able to support you and our family before we get to doing that. Like, I want to be stable in my career. You're 22. Oh my gosh. 22 for me was not at all anywhere near thinking about I want to tie down and get married. Wait, am I lying? Because there was a point in my life when I was dating Leprechaun Bay. It was a year after I graduated college and I was with him. We was together for a year, and there was a point when I did say, oh, I want to marry you, all that, or I want us to get married, yada, yada, yada. I think, okay, I think I'm being harsh. Let me track it back, because I think, though, even at that young age, you may think, oh, I'm ready, I'm in this loving relationship, or seemingly, or whatever. It seems like the natural step, but I'm glad I didn't marry him. Let's just say that. Like, I'm glad that didn't lead to marriage, because I wouldn't have been happy. And I knew I wasn't happy in that moment, but I was like trying to get to that place of happiness because it looked good on paper. But yeah, I mean, I still stand on that. Like, I feel like to be that early in age in your life, it doesn't make sense to quickly jump into marriage, no matter how long you've been with that said person. Now, going back to Shaniqua, I feel like with her, her just trying to like be this therapist to Zay, and I think she was coming from a place of love. I do see that, but her quickly getting defensive, like, I hate when people are so quick to be like, don't cut me off, don't interrupt me, don't cut me off. Like, shut the fuck up. I hate, if you could get me mad in any way, the best way to get me mad is to say that to me. Don't cut me off, or don't interrupt me, you're cutting me off. That's the best way to get me mad. If you want to know the trick to get Maxine mad, that is the best way. I feel like if the next person who says that to me and I'm in a driving car, in a driving vehicle with that person, I would literally jump out of the car. I will jump out of the moving vehicle. That's how much that statement pisses me off. Why does it piss me off so much, Maxine? Why? Why do you ask? Because it's so big-headed. It's so big-headed to me, because it's like, we're having a conversation, right? Like, when we talk, it's a dance, right? Like, we're dancing, we're moving, we're grooving, right? It's a sway. Like, there's no, oh, I move my right foot, oh, and 2 seconds later, you move your left foot. And yes, it's a choreography to it, right? But like, ultimately, you are in the moment, swaying, moving, grooving with that person you're having a conversation with. It's not about, don't cut me out. Like, are you giving a lecture? Is this study hall? Like, are we in the professorial state of being? What the fuck are you talking about? We're having a conversation. Okay? And it's one thing to like, I don't know, I really hate that. Like, you shouldn't be in a monologue when you're conversing with someone. You shouldn't be, unless you're giving a speech, right? Unless you are giving a lecture. Unless you are in front of the classroom and you are teaching, that is the only time when it is appropriate to say, and when it's plausible to say, don't cut me off, don't interrupt me, don't speak when I'm speaking. Like, I say that sometimes to my students if there is a moment when one of them is talking while I'm talking. A quick teacher moment. A thing that we will say is, I'll wait. That's a quick thing we'll say, which signifies, I'll wait for you to stop talking because I'm speaking right now. And it's pretty much like a switcheroo. Like, oh, they know to stop talking in that moment because they're not supposed to, because they should be listening silently while I'm speaking, right? So I'll wait. You know what I mean? But you see the dynamic in that. There's teacher and then there's students. And not to sound condescending, but there's an authority figure in the room who is displaying a lesson, who is teaching a lesson, who is teaching a skill, who is supporting you in meeting this objective, right? And so that's when it's appropriate, not when you are talking to another adult and you're saying, don't talk when I'm talking, don't cut me off. Girl, if you don't get the fuck out of my face, that is and it's so passionate for me because that's been something that's been said to me a couple of times with I don't know what he is in my life actually. So update on that. Okay, remember like a couple episodes ago I talked about a coworker who, well, I considered a friend at the time. We've gotten close as far as just like okay, we'll talk and like kiki, just a good time. And we reached a falling out like a little while ago. And since then, I just decided, you know what, this is not someone who I really want to be friends with anymore. This person is a gossip queen and just someone who I don't feel really safe with emotionally. Although, I'm like making the reasons up in my mind, right? Which is a valid reason. But I feel like though, I don't know, with me, I realize I'm quick to say I'm done with a person. I'm quick to be like, okay, well, 2 strikes, you're out. And which may be a good thing, it may not be a good thing. I don't know. I'm still working through that in my mind. And maybe that's an upcoming conversation I could have with my therapist. But in my head, I give the excuse of, well, I've been gracious. I've given you advantage to take advantage of me, right? I've given you more than enough opportunities to respect me or disrespect me, and you've disrespected me. And I vocalized that. I've set boundaries, and you violated those boundaries, and now I'm done. So I'm trying to find like the middle ground with that. Recently, since that fallout, he and I suddenly are now finally like recognizing each other in the hallways, saying hello, saying good morning, and just kind of being cordial. There was a brief moment when a couple of us went to a store to get something for another colleague in celebration for an event that she's going through in her life. And we just kind of lightly was talking about everything else, like, oh, we should get this or whatever. And he said a joke and I laughed a little bit, and he came behind me and hugged me and was like, oh, I missed you. And I was like, okay. Like, I was kind of being like, petty in that moment, but I reciprocated those feelings in saying, I care about you too, type of thing, right? Which I do. But I think, relationships can be complicated. I think any relationship in that sort, whether it's a professional relationship, romantic relationship, a friendship, a family relationship, it's just not everyone will you have a linear type of relationship with. And I think this person is an example of that in my life. And in my head, I'm thinking, the only way we can move forward is if he apologized, and the only way I could be cool with him again is if he recognized, his flaws, and his faults. And though I still agree with that, I think, you know how sometimes when you hold on to something, it's like you can't move on until this is done. But what if that's never going to be done, right? Like, what if that is never going, like, what if he never, which I don't think he will, which I don't think we will have a conversation, because we've had conversations in the past before, and I feel like, one, I'm tired of being the bigger person. Two, I'm tired of being the bigger person. Like, I'm tired of always being the one initiating conversations with friends, with people in my life, in hopes of clarity, in hopes of just recognition, of accountability. Like, I'm tired of having a conversation with you about what you should be held accountable for. Like, for once, I would appreciate if I had a friend who I had a falling out with come to me first and say, hey, Maxine, it's been a while since we've talked. I miss our friendship. I would love it if we can work on it. I apologize for XYZ, or, let's bring some clarity about what happened. Something. It's like almost every fallout that I could remember at the top of my head right now of friendships that I've had that has fallen out and we just went our separate ways. The times when I wanted it to work out again, it's been because I have made that move and that effort to doing so. One of my other former friends who I haven't spoken to this girl in a year. Like, literally the last time we spoke, it was a year ago, directly at least. And I haven't seen her since. Where's Waldo? I don't know. We still have a few mutual friends. I don't know. I don't fucking know. But I remember, like, prior to our finale fallout, there was a moment before that showed a moment of contention, right? Like, I noticed a shift in her behavior towards me. We will watch a show that would come on every week, and then she'll call me, and then we'll talk about the show and, like, debrief on the characters of the show. It was just, like, a nice, cute, like, girl time. Then I noticed that she didn't call me anymore after the show aired. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then, of course, you may think, oh, why didn't you call her? Because she fucking called me. It was always her calling. It was a thing. It was our routine. But whatever. Anyway, there was a moment in her life when she was in the process of buying a house. Okay? And I think she was about to close or something about the house. There was a point where one part of it was complete, and she wanted to celebrate by bringing forward some of her people in her life and, like, praying over the home, like, going into the building process of the home and, like, just, like, walking through it and praying over it, which is, like, a beautiful thing, right? I didn't get the invite. I did not get the invite, yet our mutual friend did. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Something's wrong. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, that's shitty. Like, damn, in my head, I'm thinking we're friends, we're good. I notice a shift in your behavior, but you never said anything to me directly, so I'm going to still assume that we're good. But I'm feeling like we're not. And then this major moment of your life has happened, and you purposely did not include me. That's fucked up. Like, that's shitty, right? So I reached out to her. And I was like, hey, hello, I'm Maxine. But hey, I noticed this happened in your life, and you invited our mutual friends, and I didn't get an invite. Like, what's going on? Is there something that I did? And, here's another thing about growth, right? Come forward in that conversation with humility. Like, maybe start it off by saying, if there's something that I did that I didn't know about, I would like to know so we could move forward and, continue with this friendship. So that's what I did. That's what I said in the conversation. And so this bitch said to me, no, I'm going to say bitch. Because I think, here's what I think about like people who project, right? What does it mean to project? When you are casting your own personal feelings that are personal and placing upon someone else's actions and assuming they are doing something against you, but in reality it's just a personal thing that you're going through and you haven't resolved that, but you're placing it on me. Anyway, it's a whole thing. So there was a couple of posts that I made on social media, on Instagram, on my IG story. And one topic was, and with social media, there's different things that come up, right? Different ways to like discuss about anything. There was a post that I saw about, what was it exactly? But it was something along the lines of, I don't want to be a strong woman type of thing. Like I want a man. I need a man. Like I would like for a man in my life to be in my life and we could do these things together. Like I don't want to do everything by myself. Like I don't want to take out my trash. If I have a man in my life, like, can you do that? Like, I want to be gentle. Like I don't want to be a leader necessarily when it comes to in a relationship. I don't want to be this hard, headstrong. I want to lay my feet down and I want my man to fix the roof. I don't want to go up there and fix it. Like I was just saying, basically, like I don't want to do all these things. And I was talking and I was like going on in my Instagram story ranting about that. And I was like, I don't want to buy a house. No, I don't want to go through that whole process of like, which I'm still going to get a house. Don't get me wrong. But I was saying, ideally, I would love to have this moment with my husband and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, but yeah, I'm still going to get a house regardless. The point of what I'm saying is I value men. And I think oftentimes we have a lot of women who are so quick to be like, F men, I don't need a man. I don't want a man. Joanna man. Like, I don't feel that way. Anyway, so I was saying all of that in my Instagram story. She took it as a shot. To her because in that moment she was buying her own house and doing so by herself. And it's like, did I fucking say your name? What? And my thing is, so that was one. There was another post that I talked about. What was the other one? It was something else that she felt like it was a slight to her. And, I remember. It was, okay, if your man has so many cons. No. If your man even has one con, right? You know how you write a pro and con list, right? Like, good things about a guy and bad things about a guy, while dating him. And this Instagram video was like reacting to that. And the woman in the video was saying how like, if there's a con on the list about the guy that you're dating, don't even date him. Like throw that relationship away. And I was reacting to that and I was speaking against that because I felt like we have these perfect images of a man, of the man that we want in our life, right? Like, I don't agree with that. I feel like you are sometimes in situations that may not be ideal, but everything else works for you. Like everything else works in that relationship and you feel loved and happy and, he may have flaws, but so what? I have flaws too. And that's fine, right? And I think sometimes with women who are like so feminist, so much of a feminist, they're quick to dismiss and discard men with any type of flaw. Like, damn, okay, he may not be as romantic, but does that mean throw him away? Like, you could work with that and like allow him to grow into that area where he needs to grow in. The point is, a lot of independent Black women I see are just quickly discarding men, and I just don't agree with that. So I was speaking against that. And she saw that as a shot to her. Like, she felt like I was angry, or I don't know. She felt like I was like shooting at her, basically. And she thought I was doing it in response to her reaction about me and my love life. Whatever. Some bullshit. So I'm just like, what? In my head, though, here's what it is about me and my social media and what I choose to talk about and what I like to rant. I like to discuss topics that resonate with me, just like I do on my podcast. So I feel like it's just weird to me, because when I think about like what I talk about here on my podcast and what I talk about on Instagram, like, I just be in a space, y'all. Like, I just be in a zone. I just spaz out. And I forget what I say when I'm done, right? It's just like a moment is a moment, and then, okay, moving on to the next moment. Don't get me wrong, we could discuss about what I talked about, but I also feel like if I talk about it, also, like, don't talk to me about what I talked about on my Instagram story. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, it erases in 24 hours. Like, what are we talking about? It's one thing to discuss and have longer conversations about topics that I talk about here on my podcast. Like, that's the whole point of it. Like, we'll continue the conversation, but why are you talking to me about something that I posted in my Instagram story? Like, girl, what? It's just weird. So, okay. So anyway, those two Instagram story rants that I did, she felt bothered by it, clearly. And that was the turn in her attitude and her shift towards me. And that explained why she didn't call me after the show that we will watch, and we'll discuss it together. That explains why she didn't call me anymore. That explains why she didn't invite me to her housewarming bullshit. And I think there was other reasons that she didn't share with me at the time, which I feel like I know the answer to now, that she pulled back. Anyway, the point is, I had to reach out to her about a problem that she has with me, right? Like, I had to be the one to say, hey girl, I noticed a change in you towards me. Let's discuss. Which I feel like is backwards. I feel like if you have a problem with someone, if you feel some type of way, or if you felt like someone was slighting you in any way, you should be the one to speak to that person directly. You should be the one to initiate that conversation and just discuss that with that person. Like, I shouldn't have to tell you or ask you, why are you mad at me? That just sounds so backwards in my head. But anyway, I, being the bigger person that I am at times, reached out to her and was humble and started the conversation off with that. And she explained because of those Instagram posts that I did, and she felt some type of way about it. And I'm like, that wasn't intended to, like, I don't know why. But again, I like to see the other person's point of view, or I like to be sensitive to a friend, right? To someone who I call a friend. So I was like, I'm sorry, for making you feel that way. That, that wasn't my intention. Like, I didn't wake up one day and was like, how can I make this person mad? Like, what? No one's thinking about you. Like, nobody is thinking about you. You know how people be like, you're not a fucking factor. Like, I'm really not thinking about you. Like, I'm not thinking about you. I'm not thinking about anybody else. I'm thinking about the topic, and I'm discussing the topic in my topic-filled brain. Like, it's me and me. Like, when you're talking to your camera, do you see anybody else? No, you see a reflection of yourself. I'm talking to myself. You just so happen to see it. Like, you just so happen to view that. What? So anyway, she took it personal, whatever. And so she apologized. She not apologized, but I think she recognized in that moment, like, dang, I should have spoken to you in that moment. I shouldn't have carried it as long as I did, and I'm sorry for excluding you. So she did apologize for that. She apologized for excluding me, and admitted that I have been a good friend to her, which I have. There was moments in our friendship when she was going through some hard times with other friends, and I had her back. And I'm just a really down ass bitch. I really am. And I'm all in all, the point of what I'm saying is, I think when there's friendships where it's more one-sided, where it's like, okay, only one person in the friendship is mature, that is a trigger for me. That is a turn off for me. And that is what leads me to walking away from that friendship. So that's what led me to walking away from that friendship. And then the most recent one where we're now, we're coexisting and we're giving eye contact now. Like it was weird. It was actually very weird at work. Like I didn't look at him at all. Like pay him no mind, pay does. And I'm quick to do that, but it doesn't feel good, right? Like it doesn't feel good to carry, I wouldn't say hatred, but carry just a heavy, like I have to consciously walk into a room and recognize, okay, so and so is there, let me not look his way, or if I do look his way, let me not even look in his eye. Like I don't see him. Like that is something that I have learned along the years, stemming from my childhood, on how well to ignore somebody. And I'm pretty damn good at it. Which I'm not saying it's a pat on my back. I'm just saying if I have to be, I know how to be. But it doesn't feel good. It's not something that I like to carry. And so I'm glad that we're now in a space where we have small little talks, but I still recognize that he hasn't come up to me and, hey, like, can we talk? Or, I know it's been a while since we've talked, but I want to clear the air. Like, none of that has been done. We're just like going about our day as if we haven't had a month long of silent treatment against each other. Like, is this fucking a Twilight Zone? Like, I just don't like those types of friendships, those types of relationships. It's just not what I want. So anyway, I am manifesting more mature friendships in my life. And there's I remember one friendship that I have not had, but I'm still friends with this person. There was a time when we went out and her other friends joined us, and in that moment she was talking to them more than she was talking to me, and I felt really hurt. And I was like in my head a lot sometimes when I'm around other people, or some people in particular, and I just felt excluded, like I don't belong, like what am I doing here? So I left our outing early, and I kind of left in a haste, like, oh no, I'm just gonna go home. And the plan was to actually bar hop that night, and we was only at the first bar, and for me to leave early, it definitely set an alarm, like, okay, something was wrong. And what I appreciate about this friend of mine, who I am still friends with, I do still have friends. All these walkaways from friendships. I still do have friends. But that following day, she reached out to me and asked me, like, hey, how you doing? I noticed you left early. Was everything okay? And I really appreciated that. Like, wow, I do have a friend in my life. When something is wrong, this friend will do the first move and care enough to reach out to me. And so we had a conversation. She apologized. She cleared it up, like that wasn't her intention. And we moved forward, and we're friends, and it's good. It's fine. And so that is what I want more of in all of my friendships. So there's that. But I also feel like not everyone could give me that. I have to accept that. Like, I think with that work friendship, I have to accept that people are just who they are. Like, there are some people who are mature and some people who are not. There are some people who are emotionally present and accountable, and some people are not. And I can't silent treat you to death, hoping that you'll be the friend that I want you to. Like, I can't. I have to just not accept you for who you are, but just accept it for what it is. Not to say I'm okay with it, but like move accordingly. And that's what I am learning with friendships, with some friendships in particular, who I've noticed are not friendships who I really want close. Like, okay, we're cool. Like, it is what it is. Like, he's never gonna like come up to me and do the first move. And even when we had our first fallout in our friendship or whatever, I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I would like it for us to kind of clear the air and like discuss what happened the other day. And I had to do that. Like, what the fuck? But anyway, I appreciate friendships that are both mature and it's not just one-sided. I brought that up because I'm just tired of people being like, don't cut me off. Don't cut me off. But yeah, with that former friend, the female one, she would talk a lot and was like trying to sound, people trying to sound smart. That sounds so I get it. That sounds so condescending. But there are people who really just try to be something that, not to say that she's not, it's just that there's certain ways that someone will present themselves, and there's a difference between being just who you are and trying to be someone you're not. Like, I'm going to present myself as all-knowing, when if you are all-knowing, just be that, right? Like, not to toot my own horn, but I know a lot of stuff. I do, and I'm saying that humbly. I really am saying that humbly, but like, I like to know stuff. I like to know answers to questions. I like to find answers if I don't have the answer to that question. I like to figure it out. I never like to sit in the I don't know. I like to research. I like to find answers. And I notice a lot of my, no shot to them, but a lot of my coworkers are not like that. And I'm typically the one who they go to ask questions, and I always provide an answer. I provide a solution, and I do it gracefully because I do enjoy helping people. So that is my way of doing that. But again, that's just who I am. I like to know stuff. I do. So, how people be like, oh, she thinks she's a know-it-all. But what if you are, though? Like, what? What if I do know it all? So what? Okay, like, someone has to know it all, and I'm saying that laughingly, right? I don't know it all, but I know a lot. Okay, I know a lot. I know more than you. So let's start there. Okay, let's start there. But when I give answers to questions that people have, and when I provide solutions, I don't do it in a way that is condescending or that is making you feel like shit because you didn't know yourself. Your dumbass didn't know. Like, your dumbass couldn't find that answer. Man, that was super easy. Your dumbass could have figured that out. Dumbass. No, I don't do that. I know I'm doing it now, but I really don't do that when I'm with people. And, I have a wit about myself. So, like, if I do happen to say a joke, it's a joke. It's a fucking joke, And I think also with that other friend of mine, that former friend of mine, she is someone who has a stick up her ass. Like, there are some women out here, and a lot of these women fall under the whole feminist, I don't need a man, I do what I want, and I like taking the trash out. No, if my man is around, please, can you take it out instead? Like, just the other day, I asked him, hey, do you mind taking the trash out? Like, I don't want to do it if you're here. I'm suddenly inept. I'm handicapped. I don't have an arm today. Could you take it out? Like, do it. Respectfully. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there isn't, like, I'm not trying to be the man when there's a man here. I'm not trying to take your role. I like where I'm at. I like who I am. I like what I provide. I like what I do. I'm not trying to be you, and I don't want to be you. Okay? And so that's fine. And I see a lot of times with these black feminists, I'm a dyke today, woman, just like so shitty, just very oh my God, it's just the weirdest thing in the world. So but yeah, they have no sense of humor. They have no they have no wit about them. And so they fall under that category, I noticed. And that's what that former friend of mine, she falls under that category. It's just like, I think eventually a friendship was doomed to end because I will always be who I am. And I think sometimes the way I come across may feel aggressive or just like, dang girl, you like my jokes or my sarcasm, like, okay, like that's who I am, and I'm not changing it, and I don't want to be friends with someone who don't appreciate that, or who finds me cringy. I remember when we were friends, we was out together a while, like years ago, of course. And yeah, my first year in Houston. And we were all in a party bus together. You know, we're drinking. And I think I had a little bit too much. But I was good, though. But anyway, I was like super like in the zone and loud and just louder. Because when I'm comfortable with a group of people, I feel more like I come off more charismatic. I'm more extroverted. And I say that in particular because I identify as an ambivert. Like, I feel like there are times when I am introverted and there are times when I'm very extroverted, and I like to talk to everyone and be in the center of attention. Not in a way that's like, look at me, but like, but I guess in a good way. I guess it isn't a look at me type of way. Look at me because I'm funny. Look at me because I said this joke. Look at me because I had this profound thing to say. Like, I look at my brain and how it's working, not look at my ass type of thing. Like, I'm not really that girl. But anyway, during the party bus, I was like making jokes. I was like laughing. People were laughing, like just kind of setting the vibe, whatever. And this former friend of mine was sitting next to me, and she like nudged me and was like, okay, calm down. Don't fucking tell me to calm down. I'm not fighting anybody. I'm not, breaking tables. Don't do that. Like, stop. And I felt like she was doing that because it felt like I was coming off too much. Like, I was like having fun, and she wasn't really having fun, or she wasn't really drinking much. She really had to stick up her ass. And it's like, girl, how about you excite up? Don't tell me to excite up. Don't tell me to calm down, excite up, But anyway, that's the whole point. Like, I think oftentimes you have some of these women who are so quick to be like, F men, I don't want a man, I don't need a man, don't want a man. And they're just miserable. Go over there. Go over there with that. Like, I'm fine where I'm at. So, yeah, that's really the take of it all. I think ultimately, though, don't tell me, don't cut me off. I say all that to say that a conversation is a dance, right? You know when to chime in, and especially when you're someone who is so long-winded. Oh my gosh. And then you pause when you're giving your monologue. It's like, okay, is your pause typically when someone pauses in their talk? That's a cue for you to come in and be like, oh yeah, I feel like this, or like, that's when you come in. When people like have conversations and it's so regimented. I remember the guy that I dated a year ago now, probably 2 years ago now, Church Bay. He would always keep the conversation going in a regimented way. And what I mean by that is he will always ask questions. Oh my God, don't ask me a question. Figure it out. Like, if I tell you, oh, I'm watching my 5th mystery movie this week, right? Don't ask me, oh, do you like watching mystery movies? Put 2 and 2 together, nigga. Figure it out. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it just sounds so, like, 3rd grade. Here's how to have a conversation. Ask a question and then ask another question. It just sounds like you don't know how to converse. You don't know how to converse. And so he will always ask questions like, oh, I remember one time I was like, I think I was driving past a McDonald's, and I was like, oh, he's like, what are you doing? Which is like, I don't mind, or what are you doing, or what are you up to? That's fine. Like, sure. And we make a conversation from there. But like, don't ask me, oh, how do you feel about McDonald's, or what's your take on it? I don't know. I'm trying to think of examples. It was so long ago, but the point is, he will always end the text, like, you know how you respond or like say something like, oh, hey, how's your day? And then he'll always end it with a question. Every text was a question. Like, nigga, am I getting interrogated? Am I going to jail? Do I need a lawyer? No, so stop asking me all these questions. Stop it. So, again, some people don't know how to have a conversation. Leprechaun Bay was super long-winded. And he'll speak very much. He's older than me, so he came off, not to say every guy who's older than me comes off this way, but he in particular came off this way. Very condescending, very, I know it all, you don't know much, let me tell you what it is, like, you should listen more than speak type of way. That was his mannerism. That was just how he was towards me. And every time he'll speak very calmly and slow. Remember that movie, Zootopia? When the sloth was in the DMV, which is like so hilarious because the DMV is just the worst place to be. Slow, rude, people don't want to be there. Like, if you don't want to be there, then go. You working there with your long ass blue nails. I remember when I went to the DMV years ago, and this lady was just quick to be like, make sure you have this and then make sure you have that, with her long blue nails, just looking crazy. And I'm over here trying to ask her another question. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you need me to read this line or that line? You need to read the third line. Just like, why are you so loud? It's just, I don't know. Anyway, the sloth in Zootopia. Sloths are slow. They're really slow. They're blind, which I learned just a couple of weeks ago. They're actually blind. They don't see well, if at all, really. But Leprechaun Bay was very long-winded. Would talk slow and will pause in his speech. And when I'm like, okay, what's the end? Like, okay. He'll be like, he'll call me impatient. What? He'll call me impatient. He'll say, oh, you're being impatient. You need to be more patient. Like, you need to speak faster. You need to get to the fucking point. And so we'll always reach a point of contention with that. But anyway, again, the surest way to piss me off is say to me, don't cut me off. If I'm cutting you off, quote unquote, which I feel like shouldn't even be a thing. Again, a conversation is a dance. Like, there's no cutting you off. You just kind of roll with the punches, right? I'm not talking over you. I'm not dominating the conversation. There are people who do that, and I recognize the difference. But if you haven't gotten to the point, right, or if you're dominating the conversation, I'm going to have to cut you off because you're not letting me speak, right? If you're just taking forever to get to the point, if you just never allow me to speak, and when I finally do speak, you say, don't cut me off, well, when am I going to have a chance to talk? Okay, so going back to Shaniqua, because that's how this came about. She would say this a lot. Oh, don't cut me off. You about to cut me off. I said, don't cut me off. Don't cut me off. And then Zay was trying to say, let me just say this one thing. Like, damn, bitch. Like, are you getting paid by the minute how long you talk? Like, just shut the fuck up for a second. Shut up. And so she was quick to be like, don't cut me off. Don't cut me off. And she's repeating that. And Zay's trying to say, no, let me just say this one thing. Let me say this one thing. And so she kept on saying, don't cut me off. Don't cut me off. He's like, okay, all right, go ahead, finish. And so, of course, that is going to be received in a way to her that's disrespectful. So she's like calming down and like calm before the storm, and you're not gonna talk to me, don't speak to me. Just like very, just like typical, which is, I hate to say it, like the whole, but it confirms and it affirms the stereotype of black women, right? Being so quick to be argumentative, being so quick to be like, I know it all, don't speak to me, like just very aggressive. And again, I know I hate these words for black women, but shit, in that moment, bitch, she was that. She was aggressive. She was argumentative. She was being unnecessarily curt and just rude for no reason. Like, you didn't have to react like that. Like, it's not a Shaniqua says it all show. Like, let him fucking speak. And you're talking to him about his past. And though I agree with her rhetoric, though, like, I agree with the fact that you can't use your past as an excuse to just excuse your behavior. I still think, though, there was a way to say it that could have been better received. And maybe he couldn't even receive it in that moment, because people who tend to use their past as an excuse, it takes a while for them to realize it, right? And they're quick to go in, they'll be quick to say, you're belittling my past and you're not being sensitive to it, which, look, I get his perspective. When you have a background where you're abandoned by both parents, that is a horrible upbringing, and that stays with you until you find ways to resolve that. But again, that can't be your context for everything, or just your excuse for everything. And you have to recognize that you can, you are better than that. You are someone who can be just a better example than what you've been a witness to growing up. So anyway, with Shaniqua and her just Shaniqua ass, it's just when she would have those scenes, I really cringe. She's so quick to have this pouty face, and again, it reminded me of my older friend from back in the day. But yeah, that's really all I want to talk. Wait, okay. One more thing before we move on to the next topic. What's her name? Oh my gosh, the one with Jake. Ray. Okay. 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 Where do I begin with that? So Jake came in with April. April's this Filipino woman. Jake is Jake, right? Okay. So April gave Jake the ultimatum, either you marry me or, I move on. Again, these people are 23, 22. I think 24 is pushing it. All of them was under the age of 24. And they're giving their significant others ultimatums. Look, it is what it is. It made a good show. And I think sometimes where you come up, where you grew up in the South, this area, this season at least, was filmed in Austin. And now I guess Austin is considered the South. Texas is still considered the South. So, sure. That is an expectation if you live in the South. At least back in the day it was. I don't know if it still is today. But, some things from the past still render itself today. And you still have those old time mindset. Anyway, April is giving him the ultimatum of marriage. And they go on the show. And they have a trial marriage with someone else. And then they have a trial marriage with their initial significant other. But anyway, so in the initial trial marriage, Jake is with Ray, and Ray and Jake, they have a chemistry and they seem to get along. There was a tweet that I read just earlier where it's Ray and Jake saying how they have so much in common. All they have in common is they come from a biracial. I almost fell out. My God, today, and then when I think about it, what do they have in common? It was just this, they're both attractive people and they just happen to both be biracial. When I first saw Jake, I'm like, okay, he's black, right? Because it was hard for me to tell. He's super, super light skinned, but you could tell he's black. There's some strong black features, and we learned that his father is black. And with Ray, she comes from a biracial household too. I think her father's black as well, something like that. But either way, they're both really, really light skinned, and they're clearly biracial or triracial. There's a couple. So they connected on that, and they both connect on the fact that they're really close with their moms, and it's okay, that explains why y'all have a lot in common. It's just so funny how some in these examples you have people so quick to say, oh, I have a lot in common with her. What is it? Y'all both have moms who you're close with, and you're both biracial. Is that it? Okay. You happen to love crime shows. What? What are we talking about? Anyway, so spoiler alert, we see at the end, Jake breaks up, or he says to April, I'm not ready to propose to you. This is not what I want to do. And April walks off. But prior to that, he said to her, because I think she brought up Ray, and she's like, well, you're gonna run off, whatever. He says to her, he says it in a way that's reassuring, like, I'm not gonna run off with Ray after this. And he said it in a way that was like reassuring, right? And then so he says to her, I'm not ready to marry you. April walks off. The next scene, we see Ray come up, and Jake is like, I really like you, and although I'm not ready to marry right now, I really want to just kind of continue and see where this goes with you, and I have tickets to go anywhere in the world, anywhere you want. And it's like, you just told April I'm not running off. Me and Ray are not running off. Like, that's literally what you're doing now. It's just so funny to me. I don't know, that was just a funny ass moment. Like, okay, liar. But we come to find out in the reunion, we see that Ray and Jake did not end up going to anywhere in the world because Ray was still fucking Zay. These names, my God. But okay, respect to your names, whatever. We learned that. Okay, my analysis with Ray. She is someone who is confused. She is lost. I would like to know more of her background and her upbringing, because I think there is some trauma there that is unresolved. I remember the scene when Zay was trying to ask her, how do you feel about me? Like, talk to me. And she couldn't find words to express herself. She was dead in the eye. And I think this is an example of someone who doesn't know herself yet, who isn't comfortable with herself yet, and who is just very unsure. She comes off on the show. There was a scene in the beginning when we got to know her, when she was like, she's the full package. And she was saying like, oh, she cooks, she cleans, or whatever she said. And she was like, I know how to fuck. And she said it very casually, and I had to rewind that back. Like, wait, what did she say? Huh? So she said that. And so like she comes off very, I'm going to be your sex kitten. I'm gonna be this woman whom you are lusting. And I know I said in the last episode, lust is necessary. Don't get me wrong, it is necessary. But the context of me saying that was, lust is necessary in relationships that is romantic and that you want to be long lasting. Like, if there's no lust in your long lasting relationship, there's gonna be lust somewhere else. Hello? But anyway, we come to find out Ray is bisexual and she's now with a woman. And it's like, okay, there's no shot to anyone who's bisexual, who is suddenly gay now. Like, look, it is what it is. But I think though, with the series of events prior to this revelation, we see Ray, who is just off, like very much unsure of herself, doesn't know how to speak up for herself, doesn't really have a thought to expound on, and she doesn't know how to really speak well. Like, even during the dinners that they would have, Ray doesn't know how to have a conversation. I mean, she doesn't say don't cut me off, but she doesn't know how to talk. Like, she doesn't know how to really have a thought and expound on that thought and really go into conversation with that thought and feed on other thoughts and have an opinion. Like, she's just very much immature in that area, and that just speaks to her possibly just not really knowing herself, not being confident who she is. And of course, fucking this nigga, that nigga, nay nigga, and now a woman nigga. Like, it's just, you see someone who is lost trying to find herself. So in that moment, of course, everyone's reacting to it like, oh, look at her, she's accepting her queerness. And it's like, okay, cool, but beyond that, we're seeing someone who's lost and who needs help. So I hope she finds help. I hope she is well. And that's all I want to get into for that part of the show. I wanted to talk about the Ultimatum. It was a good show nonetheless. I am excited to see what season 2 will be like. And I'm hearing that there was an interview I read of they're saying, oh, we'll have queer relationships in the next season, or we're open to having it, something like that. Which, if they do, it just gets complicated. It really does, because I think ultimately when you have queer relationships coming into the mix, it's like anyone could go both ways. Like, who are we really looking at as competition? I need that binary picture because it makes things easier to process. I really do. And I hate that it comes off as, oh, this is the anti-LGBT. It's not anti. It's just have your own sport, like Leah Thomas, right? Have your own sports. And, like, let me watch it in that context. Don't have it in the midst of a heteronormative show. And now I'm confused on, oh, does she like him or does she like her? You know, I remember the show Tila Tequila? Or I don't know if that was the name of the show, but the woman's name was Tila Tequila. And it was this, like, Flavor of Love type of show, when Flavor of Love was, like, the first black love competition show. And, you know, you have women competing, 12 women at a time, competing for the love of one man, and they live in a house and they go on dates and they measure each other up against other women and they make it to the next round, and ultimately he picks the one that he wants to be with, right? With Tila Tequila, it was a show on MTV, and the twist was, because the commercial was like, there's a twist to it. There's not only 12 men who's competing for her love, but there's 12 women as well. And I'm like, like which one is it? I don't know. Like, my mind is trying to process who is who. Like, who do you like? Like, it's hard to process. Is that horrible to say? I'm not against gay relationships or whatever. I'm just saying it's hard to process. Which one is it? Like, I'm not into the whole bisexual shit. Like, it's just like, figure it out. When it comes to dating shows, look, damn, that sounds so horrible. But, like, the point is, it's hard to process. When Tila Tequila, I think she ended up picking a man. It's like, you did all that just to still pick a man. Anyway, we see Ray. She's clearly lost, and, you know, I wish her well. Let's talk about pronouns. So this is a time in our lives when people feel the need to tell you the obvious or lie to you in your face. Basically gaslight you and tell you, I'm not a man, but you're physically a man. No, I'm not. I feel like a woman, so I am a woman, right? So we're living in extreme times, okay? I, for one, will not be, as you guys know, I said this before, but I'm not putting pronouns in any area of my life. Like, at this point, I don't want to use pronouns anymore. That's how much the English language has been infiltrated and tainted by this new agenda. But it's just so freaking annoying. And I hate when I see, well, there's one black man who I know who puts pronoun in his bio. And prior to me seeing this black man putting a pronoun in his bio, the black men who I would see put pronouns in their bio, it's hard to say, they were of that group, LGBTQIA plus group, right? This black man is definitely not, at least not to my knowledge. He has a wife, but, you know, sometimes that don't mean shit. Sometimes it doesn't mean shit. But either way, from what I know, he is heterosexual. And he's the first man who I know has his pronouns. And I'm like, nigga, what? You're black. Like, what are we doing? Like, is this a game that I thought initially this was a game that white people were doing? right? That this was a thing that only white people do. But now it's infiltrating into every class, and it's just this thing now, right? So anyway, I'm not doing that. Fuck that. But we have a case when a professor in Ohio at a public university, he is refusing or has refused to address his male student, one of his male students who identifies himself as a transgender, and he wants to go by the pronoun of she, her, and hers, right? And the professor is not following his order. He's not doing that. He's not playing the game. He's not going to address him as such, because in his case, he's a Christian and he is defending his Christian beliefs and point of view. And so let me go ahead and read some of the things that is present in this case. And what I appreciate about this story is that you have a man standing up for what he believes in. And I think now, with the times that we're in, we have this agenda where if you don't fall in line with what we're telling you to do, if you don't fall in line with what we tell you to do, then you're going to be painted as a phobe, right? A phobe of whatever. If it's a homophobe, transphobe, queerphobe, I'm going to paint you as a phobe, and you're now going to be fired from your job. Your livelihood is now in shambles because you're not acquiescing to what the woke agenda is. So anyway, Nick Merriweather, this is his name. He's a philosopher. He's a philosophy professor at Shawnee State University. He responded to a student's question during a January 2018 political philosophy class by saying, "Yes, sir." When the class ended, the student identified to the professor as transgender and demanded to be referred to as a woman in the future, along with feminine titles and pronouns, and which represented the professor in court. Doing so, Merriweather maintained would have violated his convictions. Okay, there we go. So Merriweather didn't agree to the student's request, and court documents state that the student became belligerent and told the professor that he would be fired. Okay, so now we have a case where, oh, my job is now in the line of being fired because I'm not following your bullshit ass identity. I'm sorry. I'm not playing your game today. Oh, I lost my job because of it, right? So the student filed a complaint with the university, launching an investigation, which eventually determined that Merriweather effectively created a hostile environment for the student because he would not use the preferred pronouns. Merriweather did offer to call the student by any name requested, but the student did not accept the offer. Shawnee State University would then place a written warning in Merriweather's personal file, which stated that the further corrective actions would be taken if a similar incident occurred. The professor sued the university, which is great, claiming that it violated his right to free exercise of religion under the First Amendment. Just recently, the court ruled in the favor of the professor, reversing a district court's order prior dismissal of the lawsuit and allowing the professor to continue his lawsuit against the university. Okay, that's great. So I thought, see, this is what happens when you read. You figure it out. Alliance Defending Freedom announced on Thursday that it reached a $400,000 settlement with Shawnee State University, which will cover damages and attorney fees. Shawnee State University will rescind the written warning to Merriweather. Okay, so the professor won. Good. The way I read this article, or just the headline, I thought, oh, okay. The headline of the article reads, Ohio Public University to pay $400,000 in damaging after punishing professor over preferred pronoun controversy. Okay, great. So the professor won. I read it as the student, the transgender student, sued the school and won in this case. But actually the professor won, and I'm glad. This is a good story. Yay. I'm not really complaining. That's good. But no, this is good news. So we do have rights. We do have rights. And it's unfortunate that he had to even cough up the money that it takes to defend yourself in court, but I'm glad that he is being paid for the damages after all of the court hearings and the payment that you have to pay to the legal to your legal fees. So that's a great example here. Stand up for what you believe in. There are amendments and rights that you can use to defend yourself. And that's good news. You don't have to acquiesce to the status quo. No, if it goes against your beliefs, there is an amendment for you that you can use against the conviction. So that's great. I think sometimes, unfortunately though, we have a case where he's going to be seen poorly in the light of some people in society. I'm sure he does have support, but now he may be seen as a bigot or a transphobe, and he has to defend himself. And I think though, as much as we try to present ourselves in this world as accepting of all people, we don't accept the Christian perspective. We don't accept the Christian religious beliefs. Immediately we're told, or we're labeling them as, oh, you're homophobic. One of my students, oh my god, this girl, she's a white girl. Mind you, when you're a white girl in a predominantly Hispanic, black school, you are now the minority. Like, it's a real mind switch, and it's just interesting to see, like, wow, she's the minority here, which is, it is what it is. Ha ha, bitch, right? But anyway, she's a minority, and she's very much headstrong. And what I mean by that is she came into the school year very much, I want to talk about every political event that's going on, and I'm woke, and I'm queer, and I wear my hair like this, and just okay, girl, calm down. You're still 12. Like, you're 14 right now. Like, it's just relax. It just very, very much she's trying to present herself as someone as she's not, right? So anyway, she's coming up very strong and very much like, I'm against homophobia, I'm against queerphobia, I'm this alt-right leftist, and Trump is horrible, no MAGA. And it's like, okay, girl, just do you understand your algebra homework? I'm just here to guide you here. Anyway, I presented to the class, or to this group of girls who I advise. I was like, I want to celebrate the end of the school year with Chick-fil-A. You guys like Chick-fil-A? And everyone was like, yeah, we like Chick-fil-A. Oh my God, we love Chick-fil-A. So that was a great consensus of, yes, this is the meal that we want, and this is what we're going to get. She's the only one. She's like, no, we can't eat Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is homophobic. And I immediately rolled my eyes. I'm like, girl, what? And look, we know a lot of times when we think about Chick-fil-A, it's immediately met with, oh, it's homophobic, right? The history of Chick-fil-A, is super religious, and, they close on Sundays, to observe church, and they don't agree with same-sex marriage and all of that. And I feel like, so what? Like, let people have their opinions, right? Let people have their beliefs. Like, seriously, so what? Like, it's not for you to now go against them in every opportunity. It's not your time to, stand in front of a Chick-fil-A. Like, they make some good ass food. Let's cut the shit. And one of my other students was like, well, look, she's someone who is queer, and she's like, look, although I'm queer, look, it is what it is, and I love Chick-fil-A, and I'm still like, it is what it is. And the point of what I'm saying is, like, we consume so much in this world, and there's a lot of the things that we consume have beliefs and are run by people with beliefs that may not be the most politically correct, may not be in alignment with your spiritual beliefs and your moral beliefs. So what? Like, at what point are you going to say enough? Because there's gonna be every company that you buy from, every company that you support, there's someone in that company who may be homophobic. There's someone in that company who may not like black people. I mean, it is what it is. Like, it is what it is. I'm still gonna get the number 6 spicy chicken sandwich. Like, your homophobia is not going to stop me from living my life. Like, it doesn't like so like you're making a stance, but niggas are still having long ass lines at Chick-fil-A. And there's so many gay people like in those lines. Like, cut the shit. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we want to like give off this whole I'm so woke agenda, but I promise you, a couple of things that you own, if not a couple, all the things that you own has a history that may be demonic, right? You come into work every day with Starbucks. Do you know the symbol for Starbucks? It has a demonic symbol on it. Look it up. Okay? Like, there's Satanism everywhere. You have to find a way to navigate in this world and accept it for what it is. It's not to say that you support their beliefs that may not be in alignment with yours, but it's to be realistic. Like, it is what the fuck it is. Like, you're gonna cook every day and make your own meals. Well, the grocery store that you go to, they're a bit homophobic as well. They don't like black people either, and they really don't give a fuck about the homeless population. Like at what point are you going to say, okay, well, I'm gonna have to just chalk this up? Like, nothing is going to be politically correct. It's really not. So just stop. So anyway, I'm still ordering Chick-fil-A. Shut the fuck up. That was still the agreement. Like, you've been overruled. Okay. A majority rules, ma'am. Girl, eat the damn Chick-fil-A. Eat it. Okay, speaking of transgender. Worry? Well, LGBTQ, you know. It has come to revelation that 2 female inmates are pregnant. How, Sway? Not by the correctional officer. No, sometimes there are cases when, at least what I see on TV, right? There's dirty cops and dirty COs, and they go into the prison guard room, whatever, and you want something in your books? Okay, you're gonna have to suck this dick, right? Like, that's the even exchange. This was not a case of that. Instead, here's what the article reads. They say that two women at a women's only prison had consensual sex. They specifically said consensual sex with another incarcerated person. And you know what's so funny about this? They said another incarcerated person. They didn't say man. Like, hey, a man impregnated 2 women who happened to be incarcerated in the same prison with women. Now, how is that the case, Sway? How is it? Well, again, we live in a world where niggas are saying pronouns and niggas are lying to your face of who they are, right? You have a whole man in front of you, but they're saying, hey, I'm a woman, right? So you have a case like this where a transgender, a full-on man who still has his penis. Yes. What is a man? What is a woman? Let me ask Ketanji Brown. Men have penis. Girls have a vagina. That is literally at the very base of it all. Now, if you want to get into the responsibilities or the divine feminine or the divine masculine of a man, we'll get there later. But at the very base, Men have a penis, women have a vagina. So you brought this person with a penis who still hasn't installed. I feel like at the very least, if you're going to, and look, it's not easy to just like, oh, well, I feel like a woman today, or I've been feeling like a woman for a while now. Let me just go ahead and cut this thing off and get on meds and become this woman full time. It takes money and all that. Sure. But if you're really committed, go ahead and save up and get that money to get that done, because you cannot take the lives of prisoners, of female prisoners, put their lives in danger by putting a full biological man. The fact that I even have to say biological just is so idiotic. But the point is, you have just the safety of women. And yes, these are prisoners, and these women may not be, the best examples of society, but look, nonetheless, they're still women, and they still deserve to feel safe no matter where they are. And for a man to now be infiltrating their prison quarters is just disgusting to me. But again, because we live in this woke ass society, we have to, not have to, but there's just examples of cases where it's being just put under the rug. So they're trying to say that these two women consensually had sex with him, and now they're pregnant. So it's like, what the fuck? Like, okay, so how are we raising this kid? Like, what are we doing? Like, both of y'all in prison. Both of y'all are women. Or, one is identifying as such, but is a man. Like, it's just, you're bringing a child into this. You're bringing a child into this. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go off topic real quick, but it's relevant actually. So there's this comic who I'm just learning about. Like, I just discovered him. I didn't, but I'm just like finding out who he is. His name is Ali Sadiq. If I'm saying it right. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast and the Joe Rogan Experience. And he's a black man. He is Muslim, I believe. Yeah, he practices Islam. And he's very much old school, like very traditional, very much I am man, right? And what I mean by that is he has a lot of I guess very controversial takes. Take a yonder and listen to that episode of his on the Joe Rogan Experience. Again, his name is Ali Sadiq. I think he's funny though. Like, at some points I was like, oh, he's funny, he's interesting, or he's a great storyteller at least. Anyway, they were talking about gay same-sex couples raising children or having children, and he was saying how he's against that. Like, he doesn't understand why are gay couples having kids? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, you in his head he's seen it as, and I get what he was saying, honestly, and shit, maybe it's horrible for me to say that, but like, I get his point though, because oftentimes the gay lifestyle is very much party and bullshit and drugs and lights and twerking, and just like, it's not an environment where you see people trying to raise and foster a child. And so it just, like, why would you bring a child into that lifestyle? That's really what I was getting from what he was saying. Like, I understood what he was saying. I think though, if you're not someone who's trying to hear that side out, you're quickly going to name him as a homophobe and all. I get it. But I kind of agree with him. I do. But anyway, his point was just that. Like, look, it doesn't make sense. Like, I just don't get it. Ultimately, you still need a man to, give the sperm. And you need a woman to yada, yada, yada. And so he was saying how his children, he has a son, and his son is, of course, another extension of him. and his son calls out basically the bullshit. Like, he had to decide to have his son homeschooled instead of going to a traditional school because his son was causing a lot of ruckus. Not ruckus, but his son was very outspoken and like speaking against things that were not encouraged to speak against. His son was saying like, I don't understand how you have two dads. Like, what? Like, his son was just and again, this is a time, this is a rhetoric where when this is said during a time that is acceptable, right? So this rhetoric would be acceptable back in the 60s, back in the 50s, like maybe even 80s and 90s. But now, because we're so deep into this whole new world order, really, it's very it's a gasp that people would react to or react in when they see someone so young saying something like that, right? So anyway, his point is, why are you bringing, like, that's not for you, basically. Like, traditionally, it's a man, a woman, a child. It's not two men, a child. It's not two women, a child. And you know what's so interesting? Oftentimes in gay relationships, it is still a masculine approach and like a masculine representation and a feminine representation, right? Like there's, you know, the more masculine lesbian woman, right? And then the more feminine lesbian woman in the relationship. So ultimately, you are still creating the same scenario of a traditional relationship, but now you're masking it in this queer agenda, this queer identity, which is just like, let's talk. Like, I feel like we don't talk about that enough. Like, hey, this is still the same thing. You just have a mask on. Like, you just have this identifier on and acting like it's not the same thing. But hey, there's a man in the relationship. No, there is, right? There's a woman in the relationship. No, there is. Like, even with two gay men, there's one gay man who's more feminine like, and there's the other gay man who's more masculine like. Like, you can't have two same people. Does that make sense? This episode is canceled. You can't cancel me. You can't cancel. Like, but the point is the point. Anyway, bringing it back to the New Jersey inmates who are female and got pregnant by another incarcerated person who happens to be a male but identifies as a woman. How is that going to be handled? Like, are there repercussions for this? Oh, the repercussion is a baby now is on the way. 2 babies are on the way. And now you're bringing a baby into this damn ass world under this context. Like, how dare you? And that's the point. I think going back to what Ali Sadiq said on the Joe Rogan Experience, I think that was the point that he was trying to make. And this is an example of that point. But like, this news came out much later. But the point is like, you're bringing children in an environment where children should not be brought in. It doesn't make sense. So when you have 2 prisoners, both parents are in prison, one is confused and lost and transgender and, you know, still operating with his dick, and you're bringing a child into it. How are you rearing that child? Like, what is going on here? Like, can we protect the children for once? Can we just, hello, what about the children? Remember that episode, a couple of episodes in The Simpsons, where one of the characters was like, what about the children? Oh, but yeah, it's just fucking weird. It's just weird. So, God bless. Okay, let's talk about Black Lives Mattering. This episode is a good one, huh? No, excuse me. Okay, so Black Lives Mattering is is selective. And what do I mean about that? So I'm noticing that to be the case, when black on black crime is happening, there is not enough protests or recognition, exposure on that, right? Like, it's just, oh, it's another day in Chicago, right? No offense, Chicagoans, but like, unfortunately, we see a lot of news of shootings and just reckless behavior in Chicago, but I'm sure it's a lot in other states as well, like Detroit, I think, or Philly. But regardless, we see a lot of examples of black on black crime, and a lot of times our reaction is to just, well, it is what it is, right? It's just what it is in this neighborhood. It's just what it is in the times that we're in, and it's just what it is with this dynamic. It's just what it is. Yet when a white person kills a black person, whether, I don't want to say rightfully, but you know what I mean, like if there's a circumstance when it is unlawful, when it was a wrongful killing, there is a huge outcry. There is a huge march going on. Niggas are marching and painting their faces with BLM, and it's like, okay, that's cute, but where's that same energy when Rocco is killing Bob? Black man, when Rocco is killing Jamal, like, and I look, I'm not trying to discredit that when you're living in the proximity of the same culture, same background, same race, right? Like if you live with black people, or you're in the majority black populated neighborhood, you are likely to kill one. Not likely to kill one. I'm not saying you're likely to be a killer. No, but you're likely to kill one of your own because that's who you see most of the time. That's the point of what I'm making. Like, you're likely to kill who you see most of the time. You're not going to venture out into a whole nother neighborhood and kill a whole new group of people, right? It's about convenience. You kill what's convenient. Honestly, that's really what it is. And so there's white on white crime, there's Asian on Asian crime. Like, that's not not recognized. Like, that's obvious. The point of what I'm saying is, though, there is oftentimes this just acceptance or numbness. Maybe that's the word for it. It's just a numbness that we have. And Eric Adams, the NYC mayor, he calls out the Black Lives Matter organization because they have been silent over the spat of shootings leaving black victims dead in the Bronx and Brooklyn. And this is very interesting because he says specifically, we can't be hypocrites, black lives can't matter. So he says specifically, he's like, where are all those who stated Black Lives Matter? Adams asks, do an analysis of who was killed or shot last night. I was up all night speaking to my commanders in the Bronx. In Brooklyn, the victims were black. The lives of these black children that are dying every night matter. We can't be hypocrites, he added. And I think that's such a good point. Like, look, we have to still say Black Lives Matter no matter who's killing that black life, right? No matter who's aborting that black. I mean, that's a whole different conversation. Let me call Angela Stan King on the line, because that girl is always talking about abortion, which is necessary, but the point is the point. There seems to be a limit to what black life or whose black life matters. Like, does it only matter when you have George Zimmerman killing a black life, or does it not matter when Jamal is killing Ricky down the street? Like, it both matters. Both, that's the point. I'm not saying one matters than the other. I'm not saying, people be like, well, I could cuss out my sister, but you can't. She's my sister. I could cuss her out. And it seems to be that same attitude towards violence and towards shooting and killing one of our own. Like, okay, well, I could kill one of my own, but you can't. You a white man. It's like, killing is killing, though. Like, why are we okaying who kills who. Like, ultimately, if we're saying Black Lives Matter, which, look, let's talk about them real quick, because Black Lives Matter have been in the news a lot lately. We see the purchase of a $6 million property with the donation money that Black Lives Matter organizers have been receiving. They purchased a $6 million property, a whole ass house, and there's allegations now against this movement and the supposed leaders of this movement. And I say supposed because it's like, if you're a leader of this initially presented pure movement, then your leadership is now tainted. Like, what a leader are you? So they're now accused of financial mismanagement, because all the donation money that they've received, they now putting it on luxury homes. And this is not just the first mansion that they purchased. They've purchased several properties that are of the luxury lifestyle. And it just begs the question, what have you been doing to uplift Black lives that have been killed and tortured due to racism and white supremacy, which is what you guys are standing on? What have you been doing to support those families who have been robbed, right? Oh, you bought a $6 million luxury home in Southern California? What is that? So now you have these leaders, I forgot her name. Let's see. There we go. Patrisse Cullors. She is one of the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement, and she is basically just now being looked at funny. Like, this woman is looking funny now. Patrisse Cullors, Alicia Garza, Melina Abdullah, all these are Black women. All these are gay Black women at that, which is a whole other agenda. Let's talk about that, because why is it that you don't see examples of Black women who are married to Black men who are then proposing more examples of Black family and Black livelihood and Black wealth and all these things? Instead, you see an agenda of either a Black woman with a white man, right? Ketanji Brown, Kamala Harris, and these same Black women are just dogging Black men, saying why they are not necessary for the household, and what's really the point of Black men. It's like, what? It took a Black man to help you get into this world, but okay. But these women here, they're Black women who are gay, and that is just another example of women who are also under the category of feminists. I don't need a Black man. I'm gonna go ahead and look, and they're gay. But I think it's just very interesting. Why is it that they happen to be gay as well? Like, all these fucking gay, I don't know. Look, I'm actually frazzled right now, because this morning I woke up to seeing a picture of a child. A picture of a child kissing another child. Both children are of the same sex, and one is white, one is Black, and one of the children in this photo is the son, the biological son of Dwayne Wade. And I'm frazzled, I'm taken aback. And this picture, it's just very disturbing, actually. It's very, like, I don't even know how to even discuss this right now, but I'm just disgusted. I think that's the word for it. I'm disgusted, because literally they're kissing in the photo. Like, they probably did some lip action or tongue action specifically at that in the kiss. And what I'm most disgusted with, because one thing, you can't blame the kids, right? Like, you really can't blame kids at a certain age, right? Once they come to 14, 15, okay, we gonna knuck. We gonna fight. If you talk out of your lip to me one more time, I'll blame you right the fuck now. But if you're a child younger than that, I really can't blame you for how you're turning out. I really can't. Who I can blame is Gabrielle Union. A black woman. Fuck. I must have an aversion towards black women. I really do. I know I said it laughingly, but kind of seriously in the last episode, but I don't know. Because you know what? Let's bring it back real quick. You know, last episode I talked about how I have a new therapist now. It's in person, and he's a man. Yeah, that's my one. No, but he is a man. And what I don't think I said it before. What I really appreciate about him was when we started off, he was asking me preliminary questions like, what he asked me, just like, how do you feel right now? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, do you have like suicidal thoughts, like stuff like that, right? And then so he then asked the question of what he said. He was like, do you identify as a woman? And what are your pronouns? And I looked at him, I was like, yeah, I do identify as a, like, I was just like, nigga, what? Are we bringing this here? Are we bringing this energy here? I don't want to, right? But anyway, I said it in that kind of tone, like, yeah, I'm like, what the fuck do you think, nigga? Right? And I could tell that he received it in that note. Like, he received my just what's the word for it? But he received just how I responded to it. Like, I was just not okay with the fact that he even asked me that dumbass question. Like, what are we talking about? And he responded. He was like, you don't like that question, right? Or that question confuses you, right? Or did that question confuse you? I'm like, yeah, it did. And the way that he asked that question was like, it was like he silently agreed with me. Like, yeah, I hate that I have to ask this question too. Like, I hate that we're in a time right now where I have to ask that question. But unfortunately, with the job that he has, I guess he has to be a little bit politically correct. But it felt like in that moment, we both did a silent head nod and we shook hands on the fact that we agree that this is bullshit, right? Like, we agree that this is dumb that you have to even ask me what the fuck my pronouns are. Like, don't fucking ask me that. And so him asking me that follow-up question, like, did that question confuse you? Or, did that question confuse you? And it just confirmed to me that, okay, we're here. Like, we meet each other. We're on the same level field. And another thing that made me feel confirmed in that he was in the same mindset of me when it comes to stuff like that, was when we met, and he met me at the front door. He put out his hand and we shook hands. And that has been the first time in a long time, y'all, since this pandemic came about, that I've shaken someone's hand, that someone has reached out their hand to me for me to shake. And I was just I immediately, like, I shook his hand right back, and I was just so happy. Like, yes, like, finally, we are back in motion. We're the boys in motion. Like, we're back, we back, baby. So that made me feel good. But anyway, I say that because I think had I had a black, or like my last therapist who was a black woman, she wouldn't have, first of all, we were only virtual. So I knew where she was standing. Like, okay, girl, we can't fucking meet in person. Like, you really that scared? What's going on? But anyway, I think sometimes when you have examples of people who are so quick to be politically correct, is like, what are we doing right now? Like, why are you trying to push this on me? So anyway, going back to Gabrielle Union, I really feel like she is the reason why Zion is the way she is now. And this push for her to be this outright transgender, I'm kissing another child and I'm going to pose for this photo and you're going to take this photo, it's just, I'm disgusted. I'm like, that's that. There's no other way to say it. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not going to try to be politically correct. Obviously, I haven't been throughout this whole episode. This episode is one for the books. But seriously, I'm disgusted. I really don't even want to pass this photo along. I think me passing this photo along is also just child pornography. I really think it's another example of child pornography at this point. And so I think the argument that those who are, LGBTQ would push, some of them, because some people in that community feel like there's an agenda being pushed. They feel like, look, just be gay, but don't like push it on people. Like some of them in that community recognize what's going on. And so yeah, some people in that community who don't recognize what's going on and who's pushing the agenda would have the argument of, well, you would be okay if it was a girl and a boy kissing. I would not, because why are you 10 years old and I'm pushing for you to make out in front of me with another kid? I'm not to say it's better with an adult, but the point is, like, why? This is inappropriate all around. And I think, yes, I do think it's more inappropriate with same sex. I really do. I think at that point in your life, you should not be feeling or being pushed to be more of a certain way when you don't even know yourself yet. You don't even know yourself yet, and next thing you know, he's going to push for his dick to be cut off. He's going to be pushed for breasts to be implanted and hormones to be injected. And I think there's a point when you should tell the child, shut the fuck up. Like, just be a child. Wait it out, right? Go play ball. Like, I don't know. I just think ultimately the child here is being victimized. Both children at that. Whoever that white kid is, where the fuck are your parents? Like, there's just a lot of demonic shit going on and Holly weird. And I think Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade should be ashamed of themselves. And I'm just very disappointed that that picture came across my timeline. And that is what's going on. Like, our children are being prostituted. Our children are being just sexualized, and they're being used to push off an agenda that is just so disturbing, to say the least. Now, if you want to get into, like, there's more to get into, like, spiritually, there's a lot going on, right? Because ultimately we're not at war with flesh, we're at war with spirits. And so when you see a great example of demonic shit going on, it's going to ruffle feathers. And now, because you're calling it out, you're going to be labeled, which is just another spiritual attack, but you're going to be labeled and attacked on the flesh, and that's going to push you further down into this hole of, well, this person is categorized as a queerphobe, transphobe, all of that. But that just disturbs me. That picture disturbs me. I think about what's going on in that household and how the children are just being exploited. Children are being exploited. Women are being taken advantage of. You see men infiltrating women's spaces. The prison, with the example that I gave earlier. You see in sports with Leah Thomas swimming and defeating and just beating all of these women in their sport. Men in women's spaces like spas. There's an all women spa that had a situation, I think it was in New York, and this man who identifies as a woman decided to go in the sauna where there are actual women there. And in the sauna, if you've ever been in a sauna, you can be fully nude, or you could be, top down, bottom down. This is a moment to really just let it all hang. And for a man to be in that same room Doesn't matter that you are now seeing or identifying yourself as a woman, you still have a penis. And that genitalia is making the women in the room feel uncomfortable and feeling cornered, right? So you have some women in that stance who was trying to call out the spa and just complain about it, speak to the manager, but the manager or whoever was on the floor that day happened to be a gay man and happened to be a part of pushing that agenda. And he was very much, well, he identifies as a woman, and so we have to respect all people in their spaces. And she's like, he has a dick, and his dick is in my face in the sauna where women are there, and I'm uncomfortable. We're all uncomfortable. Like, no one is recognizing that while you're trying to make one group of people feel accepted, you're pushing other groups into a place of rejection, right? You're pushing real women into places of just being gaslit, right? Like, I'm not going to be seen or recognized as a woman anymore, or the word woman is now dangerous because it doesn't identify all types of women anymore. And now my identity, my being is seen as null and void while you are praising one. Like, the acceptance of one group of people should not erase another group. It shouldn't. Like, you should be able to accept all parties and not diminish one at the same time. So while, of course, LGBTQ, should be accepted, but while that is being accepted, real women should not be discarded. Real women should still be heard and protected and accepted as they are. And we should not be afraid of saying, I'm a proud woman, right? We should not be labeled as, what's that term? A TERF, which stands for basically women who are not accepting of trans women. They're given an acronym. Hold on. Is it TERF? Acronym. Hold on. It is TERF. TERF, not TURF. So TERF stands for, and this whole new thing now, which I learned of a while ago, but they just be adding words, which is so cisgender, which is someone who was born a female and identifies as a female. That is a cisgender, right? But if you were born a female but you don't identify as one, then you're not a cisgender. But anyway, a TERF is a term that was, according to dictionary.com, it was published in June 15th, 2018. Like, okay, y'all just make this fucking word up, but okay. TERF is an acronym for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminism, or Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. And so this is the umbrella of women who are excluding trans women from women. And, me saying statements like, trans women are not women, right? There was a period in time when there was some YouTube videos of this black female feminist. I think I have an aversion towards them too, because my God, this black female feminist talking about trans women are women, and it's like, but they're not. Hello? Is the mic on? No, they're not. They're trans women, right? Black women are black women. Women are women. But there are specifications that make you different. Okay? Like, a black woman is not the same as a white woman. We share the women aspect, but our ethnic and racial background are different. Same with a trans woman. You may identify as a woman, okay, but Biologically, you are not. Biologically, the door is closed for you, Kantanji. You get that? I didn't need to be a biologist to answer the question. So that's all today. What an episode. Very jam-packed. I love talking about politics, so this was a very heavy political episode. I did start off with a nice little pop culture moment talking about the ultimatum. I hope that broke the ice a little bit, and we got to the heavy stuff afterwards, but I gotta say what's on my mind. So again, if you want to react to anything that I share on this episode or previous episodes, please click the link in the show notes where you can leave a voice note of 1 minute maximum, and I will include that in a future episode. So again, if you are interested in doing that, please go ahead and check the show notes and leave your message. If you would like some exclusive content from God Built This Podcast, please check out our Patreon. The link is also in the show notes. So I will go ahead and end this episode here. Thank you so much for listening, and I will check in with you guys next time. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of God Built This Podcast with your host, Maxine. Be sure to leave a review, give me 5 stars, and of course, subscribe. Also, follow God Built This Podcast on Instagram at God Built This Pod. God bless.